Hey solos, don't worry, you're not going to hear this voice for the whole episode. It's Samantha. I am still sick. I think it's COVID. But I was going to cancel this episode, but I realized I actually had already recorded it in the fall. So anyway, you get to hear an episode of my regular voice. Lucky you. It's actually really fun. It was a pleasure to hear my awake voice when I was editing it. So please enjoy and please take care of yourself. I know last week was stressful. We just gotta tap into our solo magic, which is the magic that no one can take away from you. So enjoy the episode. Don't worry, I do not sound like this. And I will hopefully talk to you in full health next week. Bye. Hey solos. All right, so you're going to Disney by yourself as a grown adult. And maybe you have a secret wish, hope, prayer in your heart that you'll get a chance to interact with some characters. But you don't want to make a big deal of it because you are an adult going by yourself. How can you meet characters? Where can you see characters? And is it creepy? Well, solo spoiler, it's only as creepy as you make it. It's really not creepy at all. And it's also not weird. It can be a really fun, and for some people, like even myself, it can be a really therapeutic experience and something you should definitely not skip out on. But I do recognize that you might be a little hesitant to engage with character meet and greets. And so in this episode, I'm going to talk about 4 different ways that you can see characters, and then you can kind of figure out what might be best for you. Hi everyone, it's Samantha. Olaf may not know who Samantha is, but now you do, and welcome to Disney Solo Magic, the #1 podcast for solo travel to Disney World. As I said, in this episode, we are going to talk about 4 different ways that you can see characters, as well as some tips and tricks for interacting with them. However, this is just the gateway episode. Over the next couple weeks, I'm going to focus more on things like character dining and character meet and greets so that you have a little more tips and tricks if you are interested in engaging with characters. This is going to provide an overview of where you can see characters and to really get you thinking about maybe doing it accidentally on purpose if you're kind of on the fence about whether or not you want to do that. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I do like seeing characters, but it's not the main thing I do there. I will tell you though, when I first opened the Instagram account under a different name, about a year ago, just over a year ago, I started the podcast in April, but I had the Instagram account that was related to my Disney travels that I opened in July of 2023. It was really an opportunity to share pictures of me with the characters because I was like, oh my God, look how cool this is, but I can't show my regular friends. They won't get it. So I do like to meet characters, but it's not the main thing I do. It is for some people, and that's really, really cool. But seeing characters is a huge, huge part of the Disney experience. And so I want to make sure that you are comfortable doing those things as well. You can go through my Instagram and mine for pictures of me with the characters. The Instagram link is below. I am also on Facebook and Threads, and I guess you can mine through that to find those pictures as well. But it'd be really, really great for you to connect with me on those different platforms. Instagram is the best way to get in touch with me, and it's been just really wonderful to have this community of people going to Disney solo and sharing their pictures with me through the DMs and things like that of their solo travels, which is awesome. As you know, you can listen to this on Apple, on Spotify, and on YouTube. No matter where you're listening, please make sure you subscribe. That's really, really great. Rating and reviewing, giving thumbs up, and doing all those things is also really excellent because it helps the algorithm for other people that are looking for Disney podcasts to find this one, and I hope they do, which is really cool. And it's always really great if you tag me on social media or tag the podcast on social media if you're listening, to just let other people know that this podcast is around. Also, happy trip to Disney World to all the solos who are going to be there this week. I see you. I hope you're having fun. I hope you are engaging in all the solo magic that you can. Have the most amazing time. You do you, bibbidi bobbidi boo. All right, let's get into it. Now, I was creating kind of a list of tips and tricks and stories and an overview on different types of character interactions. And then I just realized, like, well, first, it'd be really great to have them in multiple episodes, but also just an overview of where you can see the characters, I think is really important. And also, I want to give a shout out to a couple people that contacted me through Instagram in the DMs who literally was like, hey, like, there's this one character that I really want to see. Like, where do you think is the best way to go see them? So an example was somebody said, oh, I really love Winnie the Pooh. What is the best way to see them? And I'm going to be at the Halloween party. So this was in October. And yes, Winnie the Pooh does have a meet and greet during the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party. However, if you really want to meet Winnie the Pooh, the best way to see him is to see him at Crystal Palace Character Dining. And so you can wait in line for the chance to see Winnie the Pooh during the party, or you can just like eat a meal and make sure you see Winnie the Pooh and all the characters. And so if you aren't going to Disney all the time, knowing that you have those two options and which one is like the best in terms of time, for example, is something that's really helpful that I'm really happy to pass along, but also something that I want to make sure that other people can like hear about the different options. Okay, so there are 4 different ways that you can see characters at Walt Disney World. Not meet, but see. And I'm going to talk about all these things in depth in this episode. So the first is parades and cavalcades. The second is like random character pop-ups that you like, there's really no way for you to predict or to like be there for. The third are planned character meetups that usually involve lineups and things like that in a designated area. And the fourth is character dining. Now, I listed those 4 in that order because you should think of them as like gateway drugs to like full on. No, that's a terrible analogy. Okay, you should think of it as like a baby step to like full marathon running. That is a much, much healthier analogy. Okay, so you want to go see characters, but you maybe are a little hesitant to do it by yourself. Well, one of the best way that you can see characters is through parades, cavalcades, and entertainment, stage entertainment. And I'm really thinking about Magic Kingdom the most because those are the most predictable. They're on the schedule. There's entertainment staff that are coming in just to do these parades and cavalcades and stage shows. That's where you are definitely going to see the characters all the time. Hollywood Studios doesn't have a parade. Animal Kingdom doesn't have a parade. Epcot doesn't have a parade. But there is a parade at Magic Kingdom. There is like floating boats. Like there's a pontoon boat that goes around Animal Kingdom where there's characters. But this is not the same. We're talking about the main stage show, parades, and cavalcades, specifically at Magic Kingdom. So you're an adult going by yourself. You're like, oh my God, it'd be so great to see Mickey, or it'd be so great to see this princess, or it'd be so great to see Flynn Rider, or another one of the many characters in the Disney canon. But the idea of like lining up and like taking pictures seems like maybe super cringy because you're an adult going by yourself and you're like, but I still really want to see them. So then go and watch the parade, go watch the stage show. And if again, you feel like it's being really cringy about that, you can just like hang around, be like, oh, I just happened to be walking by the Plaza restaurant and look who's right there. It's Mickey Mouse. Hey. I'm going to be completely honest, like that is what I did for a really long time, just being like, oh, look who I happen to see here. And what's really, really funny about the parades in particular, because they're all waving at you, you can't help but wave. You can't help but wave. And if you're trying to help yourself from waving because you're, obviously too cool from that. You're a grown adult, look, don't worry about it. Because here's the thing, it's not cringy. Don't worry about anything. The idea is, even though I'm saying all these things like, ooh, it seems super cringy, super weird, it's actually not. I'm just trying to like pull up the fears that you might have in your head because I want to dissuade you from having them. If that makes sense. Like, it's really cringy. You should do it. It's not really that cringy at all. And if you want to go see the characters, these are the places to see them. And look, It's as awkward or as cringy as you want to kind of imagine it is in your head. I will say though, if you are going to watch a parade, especially if you're like a woman or a femme person, don't stand behind a little girl in a princess dress, because the princesses will wave at the little girl and not wave at you, and that is really heartbreaking. I wish I was joking. I'm not. I was like, ugh. She waved at her with her stupid little birthday button. Yeah, it's okay. The 6-year-olds can have their birthdays. But this is the best way to see characters. The stage show at Magic Kingdom, it has a whole bunch of characters from Princess and the Frog. It also has Mickey and Minnie. It has Donald. It has a ton of different characters, and they interact and they dance and all that stuff. They interact together. They don't interact with you. And again, you just want to hang around and watch? That's great. Just hang around and watch, and that way you get a chance to see the characters. But neither the parades nor cavalcade nor the stage shows, you will have any interaction with them. And again, when they're doing things like waving and pointing, they're not going to point at you as a grown adult. They're going to point at the kids. And fine. But that's a really great way to be able to see the characters. And here's the thing, solos, I want you to see the characters. That is a huge part of the Walt Disney World experience. And just because you're an adult and just because you're there by yourself, it doesn't mean you shouldn't have that experience. And yes, we know in our adult logical 9-to-5 brains that these are 20-year-old kids that are dressed up in a costume, and they aren't the real princess or character lead or animated character. We know that, sure. But there is something about the Disney characters that are part of the storytelling of our childhoods, the storytelling of our souls. Like, Disney World has been around for 50 years. Snow White came out over 90 years ago. Disney characters are really woven into the culture of North America, really the world. And that means that it also probably has some really deep roots in you as well. And so I really want you to know that you are deserving of character interactions, even if you think it's kind of weird as an adult who's going solo. And so take those first baby steps. I'm not going to use the drug analogy again. Take those first baby steps and go watch the parades, go watch the cavalcade, go watch the stage show and be like, yes, this is why I'm here. This is so exciting. And what you'll notice too is that when you're watching these different things, if you look at family groups, if you look at parents who could be your age and their children, you might actually see that the parents are more excited than the children themselves. And so in some ways, the children are a proxy for the parents' own excitement and their own perhaps need or desire to see these same characters. And as a solo, you don't need to use those children as that proxy. You don't need to be able to say like, oh, look, we definitely want to see Cinderella because like little Josie wants to see Cinderella. No, you can be like, I want to see Cinderella. This is for me. And that's pretty cool too. So just because there aren't kids around, it doesn't mean those adults also don't want to see the characters. Just remember that. So that's the most casual way to see the characters. Another way to see the characters are kind of random pop-ups. These aren't meet and greets necessarily. They're kind of random pop-ups that you can never really predict. And the reason why I put this next, if we're going from baby step to marathon, is because if you're like, oh, I'm going to go wait in line to meet a princess, you might like get that in your head. You're going to start thinking about it, and you could talk yourself out of it. So instead, if you just see a random character that's coming out to do a meet and greet that wasn't planned, and that happens a lot at Epcot and at Hollywood Studios, then don't let that like doubt-seeking brain, don't let that doubt-seeking part of your brain come into play. Just be like, okay, all right, I'll go wait in line of that 5 people and I'm going to do this. That is also how I kind of started with character interactions, when all of a sudden it was like, oh, well, if you're right there, then yeah, I'll give you a hug. Sure, no problem. Okay, so where can you see these like random pop up? Well, again, you can't really predict them. but on almost every one of my trips, I have encountered kind of a random pop-up. So the idea is also just to kind of be open to it. Now, I think that it's because I'm trying to go in the low season, and sometimes what the random pop-ups are about is training for the cast members who are in costume, or the cast members who, like the character attendants, the cast members who are not in costume that stand with the characters in costume. I think that it's like some of their training, and so they are in like kind of out of the way places for not that long of a time, and those are really, really great interactions. So it happens at Epcot fairly often, and usually it happens in that space between the Canada Pavilion and England. There's this big open spot. There's a Joffrey's there. There's a giant gate, and there's actually bathrooms behind that gate. Last year, the gates were open, actually, and people got to use those bathrooms when they were renovating the England bathrooms. But if you're just like walking by, you wouldn't even notice. When those gates are open, there's a fairly large, it's like, God, you could probably get 3 cars widthwise driving up and down that area. And they will often do character meet and greets. They'll do like maybe 7 or 8 different characters. And these are like rare characters. So when I was there in August, I saw Baloo, I saw Geppetto, I saw King Louie. And then kind of hidden around the corner, there was a Winnie the Pooh. And hidden around another corner was Tigger. But it was really, really clear. I mean, I guess not that clear if you aren't really paying attention or care about these things. To me, it was pretty clear that they were training the character attendants on how to deal with things like photographs and how to deal with crowds and how to deal with all of that stuff. And I mean, I think it's really cute. I love things like the training and the behind the scenes and all that stuff. But for me, I also really love seeing these rare characters. And if you are someone, maybe like myself, who's like, oh no, don't worry, I don't need to see characters. But oh, Geppetto? Like, I wouldn't normally see Geppetto. This is going to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I definitely need to get a picture with him. Like, those are the times where I'm just like, I am embedding myself in like Disney culture, taking photographs with these characters. Not just that I have a real desire to meet Baloo from Jungle Book, but that I get to like see these characters that not a lot of people see. Look, however you're going to rationalize like getting a hug from a giant bear, rationalize it. That's fine. You do you. But again, it wasn't anything I had to like think about because I was standing there getting a coffee, and then I just thought, I don't need this coffee right now. Let's go take some pictures. And I thought that was just a really great example of kind of just embracing why you're there, to be able to be part of the magic, be part of the character story, be a part of the culture, and that's always really exciting. I've also seen these random character pop-ups where the World Showcase entrance is at Epcot. I've seen quite a few characters coming in and out of there. Very, like, not quite as often as I see it in that other area, but you know, if you're ever around that World Showcase entrance, the one where you would enter or exit if you were doing the Skyliner, just keep an eye to see if there's any characters there. And if there are, just like go, give them a hug, take a picture. Like, it's super fun. Just go and do it. The other thing that, like, if you look through all of my pictures, I think the things that I get the most excited about is when you're standing in the lobby of a hotel and all of a sudden this bus will pull up and a whole bunch of characters will pop out. Usually the original 5 characters. Actually, no, I've never seen Mickey or Minnie, but I've seen Donald, Daisy, Goofy, Pluto, Chip, and Dale. Those are the kind of main characters that you will often see. So every once in a while, they'll do, again, I do think it's part of their training, and there's no way to predict it. You will see characters stop by a hotel in the lobby and just hang out and take pictures and do all of this stuff. And every single time I'm just like, oh no, that's fine. I'm too cool. But also Daisy's just standing there. So let me get some pictures with her. Just go do it, solos. It's so much fun. And again, this is a really good way to like see and interact with the characters, but you can do it just like a drive-by, you know, like, oh, don't worry, I didn't plan for this whole thing, but yeah, sure, I'll take a picture, Donald. Like, this is really awesome. And you can take selfies, obviously, that's, very easy, but there's also a ton of character attendance. So cast members, usually they're wearing blue shirts. Within the Disney community, they're called blueberries, and they are there to make sure that the characters are safe, but also to make sure that the guests are interacting appropriately, or the guests are interacting in ways that are best for the guest as well. And so if you ask one of them to take a picture, usually they will say yes, no problem. Or if they can't say yes for a totally random reason, they'll probably call somebody else over. So don't worry about giving your phone to somebody to get some pictures or taking some selfies. Just do it. Like if they randomly pop up and you're there, go and do it. Now, in terms of other kind of random character interactions, this kind of counts, it kind of doesn't. And those are things like scheduled random hello and meet and greets. So I'm thinking about Hollywood Studios. There's a spot outside the Brown Derby where Donald and Daisy will do some pantomiming of a picnic, and they won't take pictures with you, but they will you can take a selfie with them in the background, and sometimes they'll see and they'll pose. And so that's a cool way to see them. Sometimes Chip and Dale will walk around. Then there's also another place where Donald and Daisy will come out and do a little photo op that's kind of closer to Muppets Land. I've also seen Goofy and Powerline Max do that as well. Those, you can find times for most of those things in the My Disney Experience app, but because they're so casual and for the most part they aren't necessarily designed as a meet and greet, then I often think of them as just kind of random. The same things with the flotillas at Animal Kingdom. So every once in a while you'll start hearing music and you'll look down and there's a pontoon boat that's going through the Animal Kingdom waterways, and there will be Scrooge McDuck or Pocahontas or King Louie or another one of the characters, and they're just there on the boat. There's music playing and they're waving at you. You can just watch them. You can wave. It's fine. Go do it solo. So I just really love those character interactions. So if you are considering character interactions, but you're a little hesitant for whatever reason, although you don't need to be, then all of the things that I've just talked about, parades, cavalcade, entertainment, random meet and greet, pop-up meet and greets, those are all really great opportunities for you to get into meeting the characters without having to be explicit in planning your interactions with them. But it's okay. You can do it. You're not too cool for it. I know you're not too cool for it because I'm not too cool for it, and I am very cool. The final two ways that you can meet characters are actual formal meet and greet opportunities and character dining. Now, I'm not going to talk about either of those too much because I'm going to do 2 episodes that are going to focus specifically on those types of interactions for solos. So there are a ton of opportunities across the 4 parks for you to meet Mickey and Minnie and Donald and Daisy and the princesses, and I guess Star Wars characters as well, but that has never been my cup of tea, so I have no experience with those. I'm so super sorry about that. And there are so many different ways that you can meet these characters, either through lining up and getting a photo or sitting down and having a character dining experience. Now, when I'm going and I want to see a certain character, usually I'll choose the character dining, and I'll talk about why in a little bit and in that other episode. But there are certain characters that you can't meet through character dining, and then if you really want to see them, for example, if you have an outfit on that you want to say to the characters look, it kind of matches your outfit. Or for example, when the live action Little Mermaid came out, I really want to meet the live action Ariel, then go and take a look at where you can meet those characters. The best way to find the meet and greets, the formal scheduled meet and greets, is through the My Disney Experience app. So if you open up the My Disney Experience app, it will default to the map, and that map will default to wait times. But if you look where it says wait times, you'll also see that there is a little arrow pointing down. If you click on that arrow, you'll see that there is a lot of other ways that you can look at that map. Hotels, PhotoPass, entertainment, dining, restrooms, all that stuff. And one of the ways is characters. And when you click on characters, it will tell you where there are specific organized meet and greets. And if you click on the name of that character, it will also tell you when the times are. I would say that the times are always right. However, there will be characters that will show up that are not necessarily on the app. So I would say that everything on the app is right, but there could be more information than what the app is showing you. And I think about Epcot in particular because there are a lot of princess meet and greets throughout World Showcase. I haven't always seen those character times on the app, but I have seen those characters, or I've seen like a sign at a particular country's pavilion saying when Belle is coming or when Mary Poppins is coming. Sometimes these meet and greets are in specific buildings. So for example, at Princess Fairy Tale Hall, there's 2 different lines, and in each one of those lines, you can meet 2 princesses. So if you want to meet all 4, you'd have to wait in line both times. This is in a covered control building with a photo pass and all that stuff. And it's, it's a very fun, nice experience, but you are kind of closed in. Meanwhile, on the other side of Cinderella's castle, there is an opportunity to meet Anastasia and Drizella, the stepsisters in Cinderella, and that is in an open area that again you would wait in line in, but it isn't air conditioned. There's no photo pass photographer, things like that. So, kind of like the more popular the character, the more structure is to the meet and greet. You want to meet Mickey Mouse at Magic Kingdom? Well, you can meet him right at the front at the Town Square Theater. There's this big giant area where you can wait in line, and then there's a very specific set where the magician Mickey is greeting people, and there's a PhotoPass photographer or like the imaginary robot ones in the wall. And you have, for the most part, a private interaction with Mickey Mouse, and then you move on. But Chip and Dale, on the other hand, they're just kind of like hanging out around the circus area, like around like the Pete's sideshow area. They just kind of like hang out there, and every once in a while you'll see them and every once in a while you won't. So Mickey Mouse, very structured. Chip and Dale, not so structured. The princesses, very structured. The stepsisters, not so structured. I don't know. I guess you could say there's pros and cons for each type of interaction. I think they're kind of moot, actually. It's really just on the character that you want to see and whether or not it's worth waiting in the line for you. Now, again, in the upcoming episodes, I'll talk about some tips and tricks for interacting with characters when you're there solo. But by and large, I've only had really excellent experiences with the characters, and very rarely, I think, I'm trying to do an inventory in my brain right now, have I ever been disappointed or wished I hadn't waited in line. One thing that comes to mind, this isn't, I don't regret waiting in line, but I waited in line to see Anna and Elsa in the Norway Pavilion at Epcot because it was a really short wait time, and I really actually wanted to see that little house that the line is in. I just knew that the details were going to be really cool, and I wanted to go and take some pictures. And so I was like, 20 minutes in the building to be able to look around and take some pictures, and I get to meet Anna and Elsa. That's amazing. So I finally get up to my time in line, and I am meeting Anna first. And I can't remember if I said I was Samantha or if the character attendant saw my name necklace that said Samantha. I think that's what happened, actually. And the character attendant brought me to Anna and said, "Oh, this is Samantha." And Anna was so excited. It was really cute. Her and the character attendant and myself, we were all like, "Oh, we need to tell Olaf. Oh my gosh, we finally found you." And it was just such a fun, exciting interaction. It was just really great. It was so heartwarming, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's so fun to play pretend sometimes." Then right next door is Elsa, and so I was like, "Hey Elsa, I'm Samantha." And she was like, "Hi." And I was like, "Hello, all right, well, tell Olaf I'm here." And she's like, "That's great. Okay, I will." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Great, thanks." And then she's like, "Oh, can we take a royal picture?" And I was like, "Sure, but I'm so sorry. I'm very sweaty. It's very hot outside." And she's like, "Yes, it is, but I keep things cold." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's true. Is there any other countries you want to travel to that are hot?" And she was like, "Let me think." And then she said, "No, Arendale's fine." I'm like, cool. Okay, well, let's get this picture and move on. And it was just so funny because there's nothing that I could have done to engage this particular cast member anymore. She just didn't have it in her. And I don't think it was me. I think that's just her generally. But I had this amazing experience with Anna, literally 30 seconds before. And so if I had just met Elsa, I think I would have been like, "Wow, that wasn't worth the wait." was funny. I was telling the story to somebody after. Oh, I think I was telling it to my mom after because she wasn't with me. And I was showing her the pictures later on. And then she just pointed at the picture of me and Elsa. And she was like, is this the one with no personality? And I was like, yeah, it was. She's like, I can tell. So anyway, that's usually very, very rare. But it's funny when you're an adult because like you can be like totally enveloped in the magic, right? But then there are just particular things where you're like, oh yeah, that's my adult brain being like, okay, this isn't quite the same thing. One of these things is not like the other. So there you go. Anyway, they're always really fun. You should definitely do them. However, if you definitely want to see a lot of characters, then character dining is a really, really great way to do that. And yeah, I can understand why it might feel like an awkward thing to do solo, but it's not. It definitely isn't. And again, I'll talk a lot more about that in an episode specifically related to character dining solo. There are a lot of character dining experiences where you get to meet Mickey and Minnie, which I think is really special because, like, you know, Mickey always has so many different outfits on. And it's kind of nice, kind of like a Pokemon, I guess, where you want to collect each one. I actually know nothing about Pokemon, so I don't even know if that's the right, like, tag to that, so I apologize if it isn't. But seeing Artist Mickey at the Riviera or Farmer Mickey at Garden Grill, or Spooky Mickey at Hollywood and Vine for the Halloween outfit. They were just really like fun opportunities to meet the characters. And then there's a ton of different princess meet and greets through the different restaurants too. Akershus, as well as Cinderella's Royal Table, the Snow White character dining experience at Artist Point. Like, there's just a lot of great character dining experiences. And I think that if you're there and you're like dressed up in the outfit that you specifically like thought about and planned for this particular trip, then doing the character dining is a really great way to be in air conditioning, make sure you eat, and get pictures in your awesome, awesome outfit. And you might be worried again that you're not going to be able to get pictures because you're by yourself, but you can always ask a character attendant. And when I was at Hollywood and Vine last time for my birthday trip, there was a guy who was solo, and I noticed that he asked a server and character attendant before the characters came around if they could take pictures for him, because every time a character came around, he just like looked up the cast member who he had asked to take pictures, came over, took a whole bunch of pictures, gave him his phone back, and then like he continued his interaction with the character, and then they moved on. So it was a really good strategy that he had, because you were able to like make sure that you had these full body pictures as well as had the character interactions without having to ask somebody every single time. But I've never had a bad experience with character dining. And in fact, I've had some really, really memorable experiences interacting with the characters. And a lot of people are kind of worried, understandably, about like, oh, if I go to a buffet, the characters will walk around and then I'll miss them. But no, there are staff members that will always ensure that you get to see all of the characters and take all of your pictures. And don't worry about that. So I don't know, maybe I should have put that as like the third less scary way, the third most scary way. Like maybe that should have been third on the list rather than fourth, because you're like, oh, I just happen to be eating here. Oh, hey, Cinderella. Sure, I'll take a picture with you. But however you like might think about these 4 different ways of seeing the characters in the ways that I've outlined in this episode, it's always worth it, and it's always a lot of fun. And I know for some people that have these really like deep ideas about characters in their brains, then there's just something that like taps into that inner child that you just can't help it. And so I really, really hope that you get to experience some solo magic of interacting with characters. And also, I just want to say that I know that I started this by talking about the Winnie the Pooh meet and greet, and there was like one at the Halloween party, but then one at Crystal Palace. There is another one. It's at Epcot. It's in the England Pavilion. I didn't want you to think that I didn't know about that one. In fact, that's the only time I met Winnie the Pooh. I'm not like a super Winnie the Pooh stan. I don't not like Winnie the Pooh. I'm just saying he's not like one of my top 10, I guess. Oh, I feel kind of sacrilegious in saying that. I feel like some people are going to come after me for that. Anyway, but in the England Pavilion, again, I really want to see the set that they built to meet Winnie the Pooh. The line wasn't that long, and it just seemed like a good opportunity just to pop in and get some photos, and it was really great. I've never regretted meeting the characters, except maybe for that one little weird Elsa, but that's her own journey. She's on her own journey. That had nothing to do with me. All right, Solos. So like I said, in the next couple episodes, I'm going to be talking about some strategies for interacting with the characters, whether it's through a meet and greet or whether it's through character dining. I hope it's useful for you in your own planning for your Walt Disney World vacation. And again, know that you have every right to meet the characters as the kids do. You were a kid once. You're a kid inside. Go meet those princesses. Go meet Chewbacca. Oh, actually, that's a funny story. I was waiting in line to meet Donald and Daisy, and I was talking with one of the character attendants who has been a character attendant for like 11 years. And oh, this is a really cute story. I probably should have started with this story. And again, because I'm a grown-up adult, I was like, oh yeah, like I'm super blasé. I'm not really here to meet Donald and Daisy. I'm just really here to talk to the cast members, whatevs. So I'm making conversation with this character attendant, and I said, like, do you see a big difference in the types of guests who come and meet different characters? And she's like, yeah, it's a huge difference. And again, we were at Hollywood Studios, and she's like, for example, in Galaxy's Edge, like, it's mainly adults, and they have a much different vibe than the families that are lined up to meet Donald and Daisy. And she said, and there's so many adults too that are parents who will be like, oh no, it's okay, I don't need a picture by myself. And then if I encourage them, they'll wind up doing their own picture. And then what she said was like, gosh, just claim it. Just claim it. She's like, I wish the adults just claimed it. I wish the parents just claimed it. I wish the parents were just like, yeah, I also want a picture. I also want a hug. And she's like, because I see that happening so often. And it was like a really sweet thing that she was telling me, because here she was basically saying, like, there are so many adults that are here that I know they want to experience this magic and they hold themselves back. And here's the thing, Solos, like, I think if you are going to Disney solo, you are already being like, I'm not going to be held back from experiencing this magic. And so don't be held back about engaging with the characters either. I mean, again, unless you're going to be creepy, don't be creepy. But just know that, like, the character attendants, the characters themselves, they want you to have a good time, and just go and lean into it and have a really great interaction with the characters. It's always so much fun. And if you go back and listen to the different solo stories that I've done, so many people will say, like, one of the best things to do is to go see characters. One of the best things to do is to go see characters. And they'll tell a great story about meeting characters. So you should go back and listen to some of those solo stories, because I'm not the only one that, like, recognizes that it's awkward, but then once you do it, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. All right. Well, until the next episodes, talking more about character interactions, character dining, and some tips for interacting with the characters when you are there solo. I will talk to you next week. Bye. Hey Solos, it's Samantha. I hope you enjoyed this episode as well as all the episodes of Disney Solo Magic. It has been so wonderful to create this podcast content for you and to help build this community of conversations about solo travel to Disney. And I really thank you for participating in the conversation. It would be even extra awesome if you could participate in the conversation by letting other people know that this conversation is happening. Please make sure you subscribe to the podcast, rate it, share it with others, and even providing a review helps the algorithm let other people who are interested in Disney content find out about this podcast. You can also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Facebook, although Instagram is the best way to get in touch with me. My Instagram handle is Disney_solo_magic_podcast. And you can find links to all that social media content in the description of this podcast below. Thank you again for sharing the magic of solo travel to Disney, and I can't wait to keep creating content for you. Bye!